Hello, everyone. Welcome to Cendlos, Center for National Distance Learning and Open Schooling. Cendlos was established in 2002 as the PSIDL, that is the President's Special Initiatives on Distance Learning. It was then established to infuse ICT in education. We are to advise, package, control anything distance learning, that is online, digital, electronic learning. During that time, we have been doing a lot of content productions. We have been advising and guiding anything digital education in the country until 2010, when the name changed from PSI to Center for National Distance Learning and Open Schooling. Because our mandate is to see how we can infuse ICT, a lot of research was being done by my predecessor, that is Dr. Caleb Mallet. And in 2016, they came about with what we call the iBox and the iCampus. The iBox is just an offline learning management system, so it does not use anything data or simply put connectivity. So you can deploy it in any remotest part of the country, and students will have access to educational content that is loaded in the iBox. The full name of the iBox is Intelligent Box System. So let's say a village or a remotest part like in our country, Jema, Adesso, Kwase, anywhere in Pando, any place, it could be anywhere in Ghana, we should be able to have access to quality education. Because the iBox is being assembled locally here, we will bring the teachers to produce the content. The content are GES approved or selected content that all the teachers that we bring will produce here. So in turns, we could bring the best teacher from Presec, Opoku, Areprempe, Wesley Girls for them to produce a particular subject area. For instance, if we have to produce a content in physical education or a content in chemistry or physics, the best teacher is being brought to Cendlos to produce that content. So once the content is produced, go through all the processes like NACA has to approve, then we will load it on the iBox. Then we will take it to the schools that is being selected by GS. The selection process is done again by criteria that is being given to us by GES, and usually has to be once there is absenteeism in a particular subject area in a particular school, or maybe the passing rate of that school has gone down, then GES will select that school that if we have the content on the iBox, then we can leverage on it so the teachers can study or the students can study on the iBox to be able to also write exams or learn using those content on the iBox. So you could see it's really working and it's supporting our educational system. The software version of the iBox is what we call the iCampus. That one you need connectivity to be able to use it. And again, all these interventions is for pre-tertiary, that's SHS 1, 2, and 3. So if you gain admission to any of our SHS schools, we will create a platform or a login credentials for you so you can utilize the content on the iBox and the iCampus. So again, the iCampus is the software version, so you need connectivity. So you are any SHS student and you don't have a login credentials for any of our platform, please, you can reach out to Cendlos so we can set you up for you to get those access to be logged on. Usually we get the details from GES or Free SHS Secretariat for us to be able to log you on. So you may want to connect with GES so they can get you, give us the details so we can also log you on. So that is some of the interventions we have been doing here at Cendlos. So we are in charge of ICT in education. The introduction of COVID-19 has ushered every educational system into a different levels or a different platform. At first, yes, there was ICT in education, but it wasn't at this scale. Right after COVID-19, all countries decided to move some of their educational content from traditional setup, that is the brick and mortar, to online capabilities or platform. Ghana is no different. So Cendlos, we are in charge to do that transitional movement from traditional setup to digital. And the Minister, Adwabour Dr. Gyamfi, has made it clear his intention to transform education or to reimagine education or to rewire education using technology. So Cendlos is the agency or the catalyst that is leading that charge or that front to be able to move or migrate students from the traditional setup to online. To do that, we have to pay attention to some critical pillars. One of them is policy. For any country to be able to do a lot of digital online education, you need to look at these pillars I'm about to talk about. That is policy. We need policy to strategically and to sustain any development in education. The same thing applies to online education. So the policy will sustain everything, especially for teachers, for students, for even administrators and parents. And the private sector and the public sector, academia, industry, everyone should be governed or guided by some sort of policy. That is when the interventions that we introduce will be sustained. Without the policy, you introduce the interventions and maybe a year or two, all of them will collapse. We don't want that. So we need that policy to be able to govern the ICT introduction in our educational sector. In the Ministry of Education, we have the ICT for Development. That was a strategic plan we had in 2004, and in 2015 we had a reform in our ICT. We are working on another reform to be able to capture the new interventions in education in terms of ICT. That is the AI, the machine learning and robotics and other stuff. So that reform will happen as soon as possible, and Cendlos, together with pre-tertiary and other agencies at the Ministry of Education, are leading that charge. So you could see the importance of our role. The other pillar is infrastructure. That if you are talking about online education or digital education, you need infrastructure. Infrastructure as in connectivity, tablets, and other remote devices for students. Because if you are going to move some of your educational content, you need to see that the connectivity is very strong in the country. You need to do what we call the infrastructural audit to make sure to know the deficit and the gaps you have. Once you know your gaps and other areas to improve, then you know how to build your national policy and framework to be able to fix the gaps and the problem. We all know many countries or all over the world, we have what we call the SDGs agendas. That is the Sustainable Development Goals that we have all set for ourselves. If you look at SDG 4, it talks about access, quality, and equality in education. So all of this is part of what Cendlos is pushing or we are championing for. So we need to look at our infrastructure to make sure that we have the right infrastructure before we will talk about online education. Tablets is also very needed in the online education system, because if you produce your content, students should have access to remote devices to access the content. So tablets should be another thing that we can. It don't have to be only tablet, it could be smart TVs and other stuff. So infrastructure has to also be taken a keen look at, so we will know where we are as a country. The other thing is content. That is the blood of online education. Your content has to be very, very creative. It needs to speak to your benchmark. Content has to be content that students will relate better to. And not only students, but teachers too. If you talk about digital education, two crucial stakeholders are students and teachers. So the teachers should be able to relate to the content. They should be able to use the content to teach, and they should be able to use the content to create a good learning environment, learning outcomes, and also to have some good learning experience. So also the same thing applies to the students. So the content has to be very relevant. It has to be utilized when it's created by the student. So content is crucial. So Ghana, Cendlos is leading the charge for content. And we have content at Cendlos for the basics school. We have it for the pre-tertiary, and we have content for the TVET. We have the virtual labs, which we are doing that with the Open STEM Africa, Open University UK, to make sure that every facet of our educational levels or sector should have access to digital content, so it can promote the kind of education we are looking for in the country. The other thing is capacity building. That is crucial too. That is training. We need to give training, because teaching online and teaching in person is different. So teachers should have the requisite training to be able to train. And students should also have their training to be able to learn online. So you need to create that platform for us to give them the training. It's not only the teachers and even the students, even the parents and administrators. Places like Bangladesh and other countries, they were able to move some of their educational system online, but some countries left out parents, and the passing rate began to dwindle, to go down. Now Ghana, we are learning from other countries, and we have the expertise of our honorable minister and other gallant person in the educational industry. So we want to make sure that we give training to teachers, training to students and everyone to be able to dish out the kind of educational system we want online. So these are the 4 pillars I was talking about, that we need to make sure that these pillars are at a higher scale or at a greater height to make sure that online education goes on well. Aside that, we do research here at Cendlos. Research is something that is also crucial. You need to research to know the importance of digital education, to assess, to know the gaps and the areas to improve. So research is also crucial, because without data, you can't initiate anything. So we want to make sure that we conduct the right research, qualitative, quantitative research, to make sure we get the right feedback to be able to pinpoint the areas that we have to improve. So research is something that Cendlos also take it very serious at our office here. The other thing is assessment. If you are talking about digital education, assessment will also have to be something we take it well, because without assessment, then the person and other things we do online will not meet the kind of benchmarks we have set for ourselves. In assessment, we need to look at the preparations online for students, also the examination part of students online, or quiz and teachers and other stuff online. We need to look at the grading, the analysis, the report, the psychometric analysis we do online. All these are part of assessment that Cendlos take it into consideration to make sure that the migration to digital education is done very well, that we don't lose quality. Yes, we are looking for access, but quality should be the benchmark. That quality education should be achieved at all time. We want to make sure TVET and the pre-tertiary, our basic school, everybody have access to technical education. If you look at the world now, globally, technology is taking over. We know the importance of technology in all facets of life. Education is not different. What we call EdTech has taken over, educational technology. Now we have children in some places in the world, they are piloting and simulating Mars. So Ghana, we need to also set up to make sure that we give the students, especially from the infant stages, to also take technology serious, because in this 4th industrial revolution, which technology is the product of 4th industrial revolution, if you miss out on technology, then it means you are missing out on everything when it comes to education. Education is everything. We all know that education is a civil right. Education has to be given to everyone, irrespective of location. If you look at our constitution, Article 25 talk about educational right. It means everyone should have or receive education. We know that education is human right. Chapter 5 of our constitution talks about human right. Our minister is very keen to make sure that every child, irrespective of location, gets education. Free SHS was given to us by our president, who has made sure that everybody goes to school for free, especially at the secondary level. Ghana, for us to leapfrog our development, we need to take technology very, very serious. We want to make sure we use technology to promote the STEM agenda that we are talking about. That is science, technology, engineering, and maths. We want to produce a lot of critical thinkers, a lot of creative thinkers, so that we can build our nation. There is a correlation between GDP and gross tertiary enrollment ratio. Now, the gross tertiary enrollment ratio in Ghana is at 20%. At the end of this decade, that is by 2030, the president has given us mandate to get to 40%. I believe for us to get to that percentage, technology in education has to be given a lot of attention, because it will create a lot of avenues and channels for people to get into education. Re-entry can happen, and people who has lost interest in education can get back in the field for us to all learn and give them the necessary education to create respectful and responsible citizens in the country. So Cendlos, we are leading the charge, and we are happy to be the agency who is going to do this and has been doing this over the years. Education is everything. Every problem to every solution to a problem in the world starts with education. We are the actors of education. We are the doctors when it comes to education. We are the solutionists for education in terms of EdTech solution, and we want to be there to make sure every child, irrespective of location, should have access to education. We also want to promote the SDG 17 agenda, which talks about collaboration and partnership. I always say this, that the private sector and the public sector, academia and industry, we all have to come together to make sure that education is built back better for the country. Ghana needs to build our educational system for this fourth industrial revolution, for us to take our level to the next level to compete globally. There's a term that we call globalization. Globalization is global and localization coming together. We want to train our teachers and our students for the global competition to be able to compete globally, so they can push Ghana to the next level. If you're not able to promote a lot of people with skills, then in the fourth industrial revolution, that country that is not able to churn out a lot of graduates in that skills will miss out. And Cendlos want to use technology to support the national agenda of the president and the minister for us to achieve this important goal. So thank you all, and once again, I appreciate you all. Thank you.